The bulwark hung in space like a small moon made of metal and weapons. It had been built over 2,000 years by 47 different species working together. The station was 50 kilometers across, protected by shields that could withstand the explosion of a star, and armed with enough weapons to destroy an entire fleet. Around the bulwark, 10,000 Council warships waited in formation. This was every military vessel the Council could gather on short notice. Ships from dozens of species floated together. The massive dreadnoughts of the Vorkith, the fast strike cruisers of the Kelish, the carrier groups of the Torvan. Every species had contributed their best and most powerful vessels. Admiral Kethrin stood on the bridge of his flagship, a ship called Eternal Justice. He looked at the displays showing his enormous fleet and felt confident. The humans had won some early victories through surprise and aggressive tactics, but now they would face the full might of the Council military. Numbers would decide this battle, and the Council had overwhelming numbers. "How long until the human fleet arrives?" Kethrin asked his sensor officer. "Our scouts report they are 2 days away. They are bringing approximately 3,000 ships." Kethrin laughed. 3,000 against 10,000. The humans were brave but foolish. "When they arrive, we will surround them and crush them. Then we will push them back to their solar system and seal the barrier again. This time, we will make sure they can never break out." But the humans were not foolish. Admiral Tay Kang sat in his command chair aboard Retribution, studying the intelligence reports about the bulwark. Commander Sora Nam had spent weeks analyzing the station's design, looking for weaknesses. She had found several. "The station is powerful," Sora explained to the senior officers, "but it was designed to defend against frontal assaults. All its heaviest weapons point outward. Its shield generators are spread across the outer hull in 47 locations, one for each Council species that built it. If we can overload those generators simultaneously, the shields will fail." "And how do we do that?" Captain Nari asked. "We do not attack where they expect us," Sora said with a slight smile. "We make them think we are attacking from one direction, then hit them from 7 directions at once." Admiral Tay nodded slowly. "A feint followed by a coordinated strike. It will cost us ships for the feint. It will cost us many ships," Sora admitted, "but less than a direct assault would cost." Captain Yan Jie, the young pilot who had never seen combat before the exile ended, volunteered her squadron for the feint mission. She stood before Admiral Tay with her chin high and her eyes steady. "My squadron is the fastest," Yan said. "We can draw their attention and survive long enough for the main fleet to get into position." Tay studied the young woman. She was 23 years old and had trained her entire life for war. He had watched thousands like her grow up in the solar system, preparing for a war they hoped would come. Now it was here and many of them would die. "You understand this is a suicide mission," Tay said quietly. "Most of your squadron will not survive." "I understand, sir. But if we do not do this, more people will die in a direct assault. Let us be the ones who pay the price." Tay was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Very well. You have your mission. May you find the stars welcoming, pilot." The human fleet approached the bulwark 2 days later. As they came within sensor range, the Council fleet moved into attack formation. Admiral Kethrin watched the human ships appear on his displays with satisfaction. Only 3,000 ships. This would be easier than he thought. "All ships? Prepare to fire on my command," Kethrin ordered. Then Yan Jie's squadron charged forward. 200 small, fast human fighters broke formation and raced toward the bulwark at incredible speed. The Council ships immediately opened fire, filling space with energy beams and missiles. The fighters dodged and weaved, their pilots using every bit of their training to stay alive. "What are they doing?" Kethrin demanded. 200 fighters cannot damage the bulwark." "Perhaps they are testing our defenses," his tactical officer suggested. "Then we will show them our defenses are impenetrable. All forward ships focus fire on those fighters. Destroy them!" This was exactly what the humans wanted. As the Council concentrated on the attacking fighters, 7 human fleet groups quietly activated their cloaking systems and moved into position around the bulwark at different angles. This technology had been developed from the barrier research, and the Council did not know humans possessed it. Yan's squadron took terrible losses. Fighter after fighter was hit by Council weapons, exploding in bright flashes. Yan herself flew through the chaos, her hands steady on the controls despite the fear in her heart. She watched her friends die around her, but she kept flying, kept dodging, kept drawing the council's attention. "Squadron leader, we have lost half our ships," her wingman reported, his voice shaking. "Keep flying," Jan ordered. "Just a little longer. The main fleet needs more time." Admiral Tay watched the sacrifice of Yeon's squadron with pain in his chest. Every fighter lost was a person, someone with dreams and family and a whole life ahead of them. But war demanded terrible choices. "All fleet groups report ready," Captain Nari said quietly. Tay closed his eyes for a brief moment, thinking of all the young people who would die today. Then he opened them and gave the order. "All groups decloak and fire. Target the shield generators. Do not stop firing until they are all destroyed." 7 human fleet groups appeared simultaneously around the bulwark, each one targeting different sections of the massive station. The council forces were caught completely by surprise. They had been focused on the fighters to their front, and had not detected the cloaked ships moving into position. Thousands of missiles launched at once, all targeting the shield generators that protected the bulwark. The council tried to redirect their defenses, but they were out of position. The first generator exploded, then the second, then 5 more. "Shields failing," Catherine's defensive officer shouted. "We are losing generators across all sections." "Impossible!" Catherine roared. "How did they get behind us? Where did they come from?" The answer did not matter. Within 10 minutes, all 47 shield generators were destroyed. The bulwark hung in space, its defenses down, vulnerable for the first time in its long history. "All ships, emergency formation," Kithron ordered. "Protect the bulwark." But the council fleet was in chaos. Ships designed to work together from one direction now had to defend against attacks from 7 different angles. The human ships moved with coordination the council could not match. Every human captain knew exactly what the others were doing, working together like parts of a single organism. General Dai Wan launched the boarding assault. Void Marines and dropships raced toward the bulwark from 100 different directions. The council tried to shoot them down, but there were too many targets coming from too many angles. Captain Hyun Park's dropship crashed through the bulwark's outer hull, tearing a hole in the metal. His Marines poured into the station, weapons ready. Inside, they found alien defenders who had never experienced combat like this. The council soldiers had trained to defend against pirates and raiders, not an organized military assault. The fighting inside the bulwark was brutal. Humans advanced corridor by corridor, deck by deck. Sometimes they used explosives to blow through walls and attack from unexpected directions. Sometimes they shut off life support to sections and forced defenders to evacuate. They used tactics the council had never seen because the council had never fought a war like this. Admiral Catherine's flagship engaged Captain Nari's carrier group in a desperate battle. Eternal Justice was larger and more powerful than any human ship, but Nari commanded her fleet with aggressive creativity. Her ships attacked from multiple angles, never staying in one position long enough for the heavy guns to target them effectively. The duel lasted 4 hours. Eternal Justice scored many hits, destroying several human ships. But Nari kept coming, kept adjusting her tactics, kept finding new ways to attack. Finally, one of her ships managed to fire a salvo directly into Eternal Justice's engine section. The massive dreadnought shuddered as explosions tore through its power core. Kethron tried to evacuate his crew, but there was not enough time. The ship broke apart, and Kethron's escape pod was captured by human Marines before he could reach safety. Admiral Tay watched the battle from his command chair. The bulwark was being taken. The council fleet was in retreat. Victory was close, but the cost had been terrible. 2,000 human ships were destroyed or damaged. 30,000 soldiers and crew were dead or wounded. Yanjay's squadron was gone. Only 12 of the 200 fighters had survived. Tay felt the weight of every death. These were his people, his responsibility. But he could not stop now, not when they were so close. "Admiral, the bulwark's command center is surrounded," General Day reported. "The defenders are requesting surrender terms." "Accept their surrender," Tay said. "Take prisoners and treat them with respect. We are not barbarians." As the last council defenders surrendered, Admiral Tay prepared to make the announcement that would change the war. But then something unexpected happened. His medical officer rushed onto the bridge, his face pale. "Admiral, you need to come to the medical bay immediately." "I am busy," Tay said. "We are in the middle of..." The disruption device is ready. Ray's voice came through the communica. The barrier fell without warning to the rest of the galaxy. One moment the Sol system was sealed behind impenetrable energy. The next moment that energy exploded outward in a wave of light that could be detected for dozens of light years. In the monitoring station 3 light years from Earth, a reptilian Vorkith named Selkin was drinking his morning nutrition liquid when every alarm in the facility began screaming at once. He dropped his cup and ran to the control center. "What is happening?" Selkin demanded. "The human barrier is gone," his assistant shouted over the noise. "It just collapsed." "No, not collapsed. Destroyed from both sides simultaneously." "How is that possible?" Selkin's blood went cold. He had been one of the aliens who voted for human exile 50 years ago. He remembered the reasons. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable, growing too fast. The barrier was supposed to keep them contained forever. "Send an emergency message to the council," Selkin ordered. "Tell them the humans are—" He never finished the sentence. The monitoring station's sensors detected something approaching at impossible speed. Selkin had just enough time to see his screen fill with the signatures of hundreds of warships before the missiles hit. The station tore apart in seconds, sending Selkin and his crew into the cold vacuum of space. Admiral Tay Kang watched from the bridge of retribution as the monitoring station exploded into debris. His face showed no emotion, but inside he felt satisfaction. That station had watched humans like prisoners for 50 years. Now it was gone. "First Fleet, advance to target coordinates," Tay commanded. His voice was carried to every ship in the massive formation. "Remember your training. Remember what they did to us. Show no mercy to military targets, but avoid civilians when possible. We are not monsters, but we are not weak either." Captain Nari Kang, standing beside her grandfather, coordinated the fleet's movements. She was young for her rank, only 40 years old, but she had trained her entire life for this. Around Retribution, thousands of human warships moved in perfect formation, their quantum drives allowing them to cross distances in minutes that would have taken weeks with old technology. Their first target was the Velk colonies, a cluster of 12 mining worlds controlled by the Vorkith species. These worlds provided raw materials to the Galactic Council and were protected by a small military force designed to stop pirates, not a full invasion fleet. General Day Wan commanded the ground forces from his assault carrier. He stood in the landing bay, surrounded by 5,000 Void Marines in full combat armor. These soldiers had never fought a real battle, but they had trained for this moment their entire lives. "We hit fast and hard," Day told his troops. "The orbital defenses will be destroyed by the fleet before we land. Your job is to secure the mining facilities and capture any military personnel. Do not harm civilians. Do not destroy infrastructure we can use. Am I clear?" "Yes, sir." 5,000 voices answered as one. The fleet emerged from quantum space directly above the first Velk world. The planet's defense satellites immediately activated, preparing to fire on the unknown ships. They never got the chance. Captain Nari's tactical team had studied these defenses for years from stolen council data. They knew every weakness, every blind spot. "Fire solution locked," Nari reported. "All weapons ready." "Fire," Admiral Tay said calmly. The human fleet opened fire with weapons the Vorkith had never seen before. Missiles that moved faster than light. Energy beams that cut through shields like paper. Kinetic rounds that hit with the force of nuclear bombs. In less than 10 minutes, every defense satellite was destroyed. The Vorkith military commander on the planet's surface watched his orbital defenses disappear from his screens. He could not believe what he was seeing. These were humans, the weak species that had been exiled 50 years ago. How did they have such powerful weapons? "Send a distress signal to Council headquarters," the commander ordered. "Tell them we are under attack by—" His communication officer interrupted. "Sir, they are jamming all frequencies. Nothing is getting through. Then prepare ground defenses. Ready all troops. If they want this planet, they will have to take it from our dead hands." But the human assault was unlike anything the Vorkith had prepared for. The Void Marines landed in 1,000 different locations simultaneously, using drop pods that fell from orbit like meteors. The Vorkith defenders tried to coordinate a response, but the humans moved too fast, hit too hard, and used tactics that seemed to come from nowhere. Captain Hyun Park led his unit directly toward the main military base. His Marines moved through the alien city with precision, avoiding civilian areas and focusing on military targets. The Vorkith soldiers fought back, but they were trained for peacekeeping, not war. The humans were trained for nothing but war. "Breach the gate," Hyun ordered. His Marines attached explosive charges to the military base entrance. The explosion tore through the reinforced metal and the Marines poured through the gap. Inside, Vorkith soldiers fired their weapons, but the human armor was too strong. Bullets bounced off. Energy weapons were absorbed by shields. The Marines returned fire with precision shots, disabling but not killing when possible. Hyun wanted prisoners who could be questioned about Council military capabilities. Within 2 hours, the base was captured. Within 6 hours, the entire planet surrendered. Admiral Tay watched the reports come in from all 12 Velk worlds. All were captured within 1 day. Vorkith casualties were relatively light because they surrendered quickly. Human casualties were minimal. Only 33 soldiers injured, none killed. "Send a message to the other Velk colony worlds," Tay ordered. "Tell them they have 1 day to surrender peacefully. If they resist, we will take them by force. If they surrender, their people will be treated well and their infrastructure will remain intact." "Sir, should we inform the Council of our demands?" Nari asked. Tai smiled coldly. "They will figure it out soon enough." Across the next week, the human fleet moved through space like a storm. They struck 12 more systems, all chosen carefully for their strategic importance. Each one provided something humanity needed: rare minerals, fuel sources, or locations for military bases. Each one fell quickly, the defenders overwhelmed by human tactics and technology. Commander Sora Nam coordinated intelligence operations from her ship. As each system fell, her team seized computers, files, and databases full of information about the Galactic Council. They learned about political structures, military capabilities, trade routes, and most importantly, the weaknesses between Council species. "The Council is not as united as they pretend," Sora reported to Admiral Tay. "We found evidence of disputes over resources, territory disagreements, and species that were forced to join the Council against their will. That information will be useful," Tay said. "Continue gathering intelligence. We need to know everything about our enemies." On the Council homeworld of Andros Prime, Chancellor Veloth received reports with growing horror. 24 systems had fallen to humans in just 1 week. Thousands of Council military personnel were dead or captured, and the humans showed no signs of stopping. "How is this possible?" Veloth demanded at the Emergency Council meeting. "We exiled them 50 years ago. They were supposed to wither and die in isolation. Instead, they have technology superior to ours." How? No one had an answer. The truth was simple but terrifying. Humans had spent 50 years with one goal. While the Council species grew comfortable and complacent, humans had done nothing but prepare for war. They had taken every piece of technology they could steal or copy, improved it, and weaponized it. They had trained soldiers for battles that had not yet happened. They had built a military machine specifically designed to defeat the Council. "We must respond with force," said Admiral Kethrin, the Council's top military commander. Kethrin was a large creature with 6 arms and skin-like armor. He had led the Council military for 40 years and never lost a battle. "Gather the fleet. I will crush these humans and remind them why they were exiled." "How long to assemble the fleet?" Veloth asked. 2 weeks to gather ships from across Council space. Then we strike at their captured territories and push them back to their system. Veloth agreed. Messages were sent across the galaxy. Every Council species was ordered to send warships to the Bulwark, a massive military station that served as the Council's primary fortress. Over 10,000 ships would gather there, the largest fleet ever assembled. It would be more than enough to stop the human invasion, but the humans did not wait. Captain Hyun Park led a secret mission to a Council intelligence facility on a small moon called Thessia Minor. His team infiltrated the facility, avoiding detection through stealth technology. The Council did not know humans possessed. They copied exabytes of data about Council operations, military secrets, and political structures. When they returned to the fleet, Director Junho Shin analyzed the stolen data personally. What he found changed everything. The Council was not a unified government of equals like they claimed. It was a power structure where the strongest species controlled the weakest. Several minor species had voted against humanity's exile but were silenced. Others were forced to contribute resources they could barely afford to maintain the Council's military. "We can use this," Junho told President Wu in the yard. "Sir, you have been wounded." When the flagship was hit earlier, A piece of the destruction of the bulwark changed everything. What had been a unified council began to crack like old glass. Species that had always followed the council's orders now questioned whether their leaders knew what they were doing. Species that had secretly disagreed with the exile of humanity now spoke up more boldly. Ambassador Hai Rin sat in a small ship near a moon called Thessia, far from the main war zones. Across from her sat representatives from 3 alien species: the Torvan, who looked like large amphibians with blue skin, the Kellish insect-like beings with multiple arms, and the Marathi, whose bodies seemed to be made of swirling mist. "Why should we trust you?" the Torvan representative asked. "You are conquering our galaxy. We are liberating it," Hai corrected gently. "Tell me, when did your species join the council?" The Torvan was quiet for a moment. 600 years ago. We had no choice. The council said join or be destroyed. "And have you prospered under council rule?" Hai asked. "We have survived," the Kellish representative said, its voice clicking strangely through the translator. "But we give much to the council and receive little. They take our best resources. They limit our technology. They tell us it is for the good of all, but mostly it benefits the powerful species." Hai pulled up documents on her datapad, information stolen from the council archives during Captain Hyun's raid. These are the council's own records. They show how much each species contributes versus how much they receive. The powerful species take more than they give. The weak species give everything and get almost nothing. The 3 alien representatives studied the data with growing anger. The Marathi's mist body turned a dark red color, which Hai's research said indicated strong emotion. "They lied to us," the Marathi said. "For centuries they lied." "Yes," Hai agreed. "And they lied about humanity too. They said we were dangerous and had to be exiled for the safety of the galaxy. But the truth is simpler. They were afraid we would expose their lies. They were afraid we would offer a better alternative." "What alternative do you offer?" the Torvan asked. "True equality. A government where every species has real power, not just the appearance of it. Where technology and resources are shared fairly. Where the strong do not exploit the weak." Hai leaned forward. "We are not asking you to bow to humanity. We are asking you to stand with us as equals." The 3 representatives exchanged looks. Finally, the Kellish spoke. "If we help you, the council will brand us as traitors. They will attack our homeworlds." "The council is losing this war," Hai said firmly. "They lost the bulwark. They are losing territory every day. Soon they will not have the power to attack anyone. The question is, do you want to be on the winning side, helping to build something new? Or do you want to stay loyal to leaders who have exploited you for centuries?" It took 3 more days of negotiation, but eventually the 3 species agreed to help humanity. They provided detailed intelligence about council military movements, safe harbors for human ships, and most importantly, they began broadcasting the truth to other oppressed species. The message spread like fire across the galaxy. Minor species that had suffered under council rule began to question their leaders. Some staged protests. Others refused to send more resources or soldiers to the war effort. The council's unified front was crumbling. Admiral Nari Kang, now promoted to Supreme Commander after her grandfather's death, led the human fleet in a new kind of campaign. Instead of attacking major council worlds, she targeted the supply lines and infrastructure that held the council together. She captured trade routes, destroyed shipyards, and blocked communications between council forces. But Nari was careful to avoid civilian casualties whenever possible. This was Director Junho Shin's advice, and it was working. Every world that surrendered without fighting was treated fairly. Captured soldiers were held as prisoners but not mistreated. Civilians were left alone. This mercy won more allies than violence ever could. On Earth, President Wu Sun received a message that changed everything. It came from a council species called the Vrathan, who had never been part of the war effort. The Vrathan were scientists and philosophers, more interested in knowledge than conquest. "We have reviewed the evidence you broadcast about the council's corruption," the Vrathan message said. "We voted against your exile 50 years ago, but we were silenced by the powerful species. We do not wish to see this war continue. We propose a meeting between your leaders and representatives from species that secretly oppose the current council leadership. Perhaps there is a way to end this conflict without more death." President Wu discussed this with his advisors. General Daewon was skeptical. It could be a trap. The council might be trying to lure our leaders into an ambush. but Director Junho saw opportunity. If there are truly species within the Council who oppose the current leadership, we can use that. We can turn this into a political revolution, not just a military conquest. Commander Soranam's intelligence teams investigated the Vrathan and confirmed they were genuine. The species had indeed voted against human exile and had maintained only minimal military forces throughout the war. They seemed to be telling the truth about wanting peace. Captain Hyun Park was sent to the meeting with a team of Void Marines as security. The location was a neutral space station far from any major systems. When Hyun arrived, he found not just the Vrathan, but representatives from 7 other species. All of them had opposed humanity's exile. All of them were tired of the Council's corrupt leadership. "We cannot defeat you militarily," the Vrathan representative admitted. "You have proven that human determination is greater than our numbers. But we also cannot continue to support a council that has lied to us for so long. What are you proposing?" Hyun asked carefully. "A new government, one where all species have equal voice, where the strong cannot dominate the weak, where decisions are made collectively, not by a few powerful species imposing their will." The Vrathan paused. "We propose that humanity helps us overthrow the current council leadership and establish this new government." Hyun was stunned. "You want us to help you stage a revolution?" "Yes, many species are ready to join us, but they are afraid. They need proof that change is possible. They need a strong ally who will stand with them against the current leadership." This information was sent back to Earth immediately. President Wu called an emergency council meeting. The debate was intense. Some argued that humanity should simply conquer the entire galaxy and impose its own rule. Others said allying with council species was a betrayal of the humans who died fighting them. But Ambassador Hai Rin made the argument that we did not fight this war to become the new oppressors. We fought to prove we would not be caged. If we conquer the galaxy, we become exactly what the Council feared. But if we help build something better, we prove we are something worth respecting. The decision was made. Humanity would support the revolution. What followed was a campaign unlike any other in galactic history. Admiral Nari led military strikes against Council military targets while simultaneously coordinating with allied species to undermine Council authority politically. The Torvan used their trade networks to spread information. The Kelish used their engineering skills to sabotage Council shipyards. The Marathi used their unique abilities to infiltrate Council communications. The decisive moment came at a place called the Threshold, a massive gateway system that connected different sectors of the galaxy. Control of the Threshold meant control of galactic travel. The Council sent everything they had left to defend it. The battle was the largest in galactic history. Thousands of ships on both sides engaged in combat across a region of space larger than a solar system. Admiral Nari coordinated not just human forces but allied alien fleets as well. It was the first time multiple species fought together as true equals against a common enemy. The battle raged for 3 days. Ships were destroyed. Thousands died on both sides. Victory swung back and forth like a pendulum. Then something miraculous happened. 3 council species, the ones who had been meeting secretly with humanity, defected in the middle of the battle. Their ships turned their weapons on their former allies and joined the human coalition. The tide turned decisively. The council forces, already stretched thin and demoralized, collapsed. The Threshold fell under human and allied control. The gateway that connected the galaxy now belonged to those who wanted change. Chancellor Veloth broadcast a message from Andros Prime, offering to negotiate a ceasefire. But before anyone could respond to this message, something else happened that changed everything. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet emerging from the galactic core. The ships were unlike anything anyone had seen before, enormous vessels using technology that seemed impossible. There were thousands of them, moving in perfect formation toward the heart of civilization. Commander Sora Nam's team analyzed the signals and went pale. These ship designs, they match records from the oldest council archives, from before the council even existed. Who are they? Admiral Nari demanded. The precursors, Sora said quietly. The species that vanished millions of years ago. They built the gates, the ancient structures, all the things we thought were natural phenomena. They are not extinct. They have been watching. And now, Admiral Tae Kang stood in the cold metal room, staring at the floating images before him. 47 alien faces looked back at him from their distant worlds. Some had scales, some had tentacles, and some were just balls of light. But they all shared one thing. They did not want humans in their galaxy anymore. The room was aboard the space station Prometheus, floating high above Earth. Through the windows, Tay could see his home planet spinning slowly in the darkness. He had lived 60 years, fought in 3 wars, and explored 12 star systems. Now he stood here, listening to aliens decide humanity's fate. Chancellor Veloth spoke first. The alien was made of blue crystal that glowed when it talked. Its voice echoed in the empty chamber like wind through a cave. "Humanity is found guilty," Veloth said. The words were translated into human language by computers, but they still felt cold and final. "You have spread too fast. You have taken too much. You refuse to follow our rules. You are dangerous." Captain Hannah Park stood beside Tay. She was younger, only 35, and she had spent the last 5 years trying to make the aliens like humans. She had learned their languages, studied their cultures, and smiled until her face hurt. None of it had mattered. "We only wanted to explore," Hannah said, her voice shaking slightly. "We wanted to learn from you, to trade with you, to be your friends." A reptilian alien named Selkin hissed from its screen. "You wanted to take what is ours. You copy our technology. You ignore our warnings. You're like a disease spreading through healthy tissue." Tay felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his face calm. He had been a soldier too long to show emotion to enemies. And these aliens were enemies now, even if they pretended to be judges. "What is your sentence?" Tay asked quietly. Veloth's crystal body flashed brighter. "You will return to your home system. All your colonies beyond the sun you call Sol must be abandoned. You will have 1 Earth year to bring everyone home. Then we will seal your system behind a barrier. You will stay there forever. If you try to break out, we will destroy your planet." Hannah gasped. "You cannot do this. We have 300 million people living on Mars, Europa, Titan, and the outer stations. We have families, children, entire cities built on those worlds. They will come home," Veloth said simply. "Or they will die when the barrier activates. The choice is yours," the vote was called. One by one, each alien species raised its equivalent of a hand. 47 votes were cast. 47 voted yes. Not one single alien spoke for humanity. The screens went dark. Tay and Hannah stood alone in the quiet room. Through the window, Earth looked peaceful and blue, unaware of what had just happened. "They are afraid of us," Tay said softly. "Afraid?" Hannah turned to him. "Why would they be afraid? They have technology thousands of years ahead of ours. They have thousands of worlds. They have weapons that could turn our sun into a black hole." Tay smiled, but there was no happiness in it. "That is exactly why they are afraid. We went from living in caves to flying between planets in just a few thousand years. They took millions of years to do the same. They look at us and see something they do not understand. Something that grows too fast. Something that might become stronger than them." Back on Earth, the news spread like fire. People poured into the streets. Some cried. Some screamed. Some threw rocks at the sky as if they could hit the aliens hiding among the stars. In the military headquarters buried deep under a mountain, General Minho Bayek slammed his fist on the table. "We should fight. We have weapons. We have ships. We can make them pay for this insult." President Yuna Choi sat at the head of the table. She was old now, her hair completely gray, but her eyes were still sharp. She had led Earth's government for 20 years and had made hard choices before. "This was the hardest. If we fight, they will kill us all," she said calmly. "They have made that clear. We will not sacrifice our species for pride. So we just give up?" Mino's voice was full of anger. "We abandon our colonies? We let them lock us in a cage?" "We survive," Yuna said. "That is the most important thing. We survive and we remember." The evacuation began the next day. Ships launched from Mars carrying families who had never seen Earth. From Europa, ice miners crowded onto cargo vessels with whatever they could carry. From Titan, where humans had built domed cities under orange skies, thousands lined up for transport ships, but not everyone followed orders. Dr. Jin Lee worked in a secret laboratory on Europa. He had spent 10 years developing new types of engines that could fold space and move ships faster than light. The Galactic Council had forbidden humans from making this technology. They said humans were not ready. They said it was for humanity's own safety. Jin knew the truth. They wanted to keep humans slow and weak. When the evacuation order came, Jin made a choice. He could not take his laboratory with him, but he could hide his research. He spent 3 days copying every file, every blueprint, every test result onto data chips the size of his fingernail. He sewed these chips into his clothes, into his shoes, even into a fake tooth in his mouth. Other scientists did the same. Engineers hid advanced weapon designs. Biologists smuggled genetic research. Across all the colonies, humans took what they could and hid it well. The Council had ordered all human technology to be left behind. They wanted to study it, to make sure humans had not created anything too dangerous, but they would find empty laboratories and erased computers. The real treasures were already on their way to Earth. The last ship left the outer colonies 11 months after the exile order. Admiral Tay commanded this final vessel, a warship named Indomitable. He stood on the bridge and watched as his crew guided the ship toward Earth. Behind them, automated systems began destroying the colonies humans had built. The Council wanted no trace of humanity left beyond the Sol system. As they crossed the invisible line that marked the edge of the solar system, space itself seemed to shiver. The barrier was activating. Tay could not see it with his eyes, but his ship's sensors showed a wall of energy forming behind them. It grew and spread, wrapping around the entire solar system like a bubble. When it finished, the sensors went crazy for a moment, then went silent. The barrier was perfect. No signal could pass through it. No ship could cross it. Earth was alone in the universe now. Tay stood at the window and looked at the stars. They looked the same as always, small points of light in endless darkness. But he knew the truth. Those stars were now beyond reach. The galaxy that humans had dreamed of exploring for centuries was forbidden to them. "They think this will destroy us," Tay said to Hana, who stood beside him. "They think we will grow weak and forget how to reach the stars. They think in a few generations humans will be primitive again." Hana looked at him. "Will we?" Tay's reflection in the window smiled. It was not a nice smile. "No, we will grow stronger. We will learn. We will prepare. And one day we will break out of this prison. When we do, the galaxy will not recognize us. They wanted to cage humanity. They have created something much worse." "What is that?" Hana asked. "A species with nothing to lose and everything to prove." The ship continued toward Earth, leaving the barrier behind. Inside the solar system, 300 million returned colonists began to rebuild. They brought with them anger, determination, and stolen technology the Council did not know existed. The aliens thought they had solved their human problem. They had actually just given humanity a reason to become their worst nightmare. 50 years would pass before the Council realized their mistake. By then, it would be far too late. 50 years had changed everything. Commander Sora Nam floated in the zero-gravity section of Forge 7, one of 300 shipyards orbiting Earth. Through the observation window, she watched robots the size of buildings weld together the hull of a new warship. This one was called Vengeance, and it was the most powerful vessel humanity had ever built. "How many more days until she is ready?" Sora asked her assistant, a young engineer named Quan. 12 days for the hull. Another 6 for weapon systems. Then 3 days of testing. Quan looked at his tablet screen. "She will be ready in 3 weeks. Sora nodded. Vengeance would be the 200th ship completed this year. In the orbital space around Earth, Moon, and Mars, a fleet was growing. Not the small exploration ships humans had built before the exile. These were weapons built for war. Below, on Earth's surface, things had changed even more. The planet that used to have separate nations and competing governments was now unified. There was only one goal that mattered: breaking free from the prison the aliens had built around them. Director Junho Shin sat in his office 3 kilometers underground, in a facility called the Crucible. On the walls around him, screens showed hundreds of research projects happening across Earth and its colonies. Here, scientists studied alien technology. There, engineers tested new weapons. In another lab, doctors worked on treatments to keep humans healthy in space for decades. "Director, we have a breakthrough in Section 7, a voice said through his communication device. Junho stood up quickly. Section 7 was where they studied the barrier itself. For 50 years, humans had been trapped inside, but they had not been idle. Every day, sensors measured the barrier's energy. Computers analyzed its patterns. Scientists tried to understand how it worked. "Show me," Junho said. The screen on his desk came alive with numbers and graphs. Dr. Ray Kim appeared, her face tired but excited. She had been working on the barrier problem for 30 years since she was a young student. "We found the frequency," Ray said. "The barrier operates on quantum level, using a specific energy signature. We cannot break it from inside, but we can map it completely now. More importantly, we know it can be disrupted from outside." "From outside?" Unyo leaned forward. "But we cannot get outside," Ray smiled. "Not yet. But once we do, we can bring it down permanently. The aliens made it strong against attacks from inside. They never considered that we might attack it from both sides at once. This was the information they needed." Junyo immediately sent the data to Admiral Tae Kang. The old admiral was over 100 years old now, kept alive by medical technology that had advanced greatly during the exile. His body was weak, but his mind was still sharp as a knife. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, engineer Mira Han supervised the mining operations. Thousands of robots worked day and night, breaking apart asteroids and processing them into raw materials. What used to take years now took weeks. Every piece of metal, every rare element, every drop of fuel was needed for the fleet. Mira's team had developed something new: swarm technology. Instead of one big mining machine, they used millions of small robots that worked together like a hive of insects. They could strip an asteroid down to nothing in just days. "How much have we extracted this month?" Mira asked her deputy. 300,000 tons of refined metal, 50,000 tons of rare elements. Enough fuel to power the fleet for 6 months. Good. Next month I want 400,000 tons. That is impossible. Mira looked at him with cold eyes. The word impossible died 50 years ago. We will do it. On Mars, in the massive underground caverns humans had carved beneath the red planet's surface, General Daewon watched soldiers train. These were not like the soldiers of old Earth. Every single one of them had been born after the exile. They had never seen an alien. They had never known a time when humans could travel freely through space. All they knew was training and preparation for a war they had never fought. The soldiers moved through the training course in zero gravity, weapons firing, moving as one unit. They practiced boarding enemy ships. They practiced defending stations. They practiced every type of combat humans could imagine against aliens they had never met. "They are ready," said Captain Hyun Park, standing beside Dae. Hyun was the son of Hana Park, who had stood with Admiral Tae when the exile was announced. Hyun had been 5 years old then. Now he was 55, and he commanded the elite Void Marine Force. "Ready to fight?" Dae asked. "Ready to win?" Hyun corrected him. Back on Earth in the government chambers, President Woo-san reviewed the latest reports. Woo was the grandson of President Yoon Choi, who had made the decision to accept exile rather than fight a war humanity would lose. Yuna had died 10 years ago, but her words still guided her grandson. "We survive and we remember," she had told him before her death. "Never forget what they did to us. Never forgive. But more importantly, never stop preparing." Now the report said humanity was ready. The fleet was built. The soldiers were trained. The technology was perfected. Dr. Jin Lee's stolen quantum drive research had been refined into engines that could move ships faster than anything the Galactic Council possessed. Weapons had been designed specifically to counter alien defenses, but there was one problem: the barrier. Admiral Tae Kang called a meeting of the War Council. Despite his age, he still commanded respect from every person in the room. He had been there on the day of exile. He had been on the last ship to return home. He had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. "We have the ships. We have the weapons. We have the soldiers," Tae said, his voice rough but firm. "Dr. Ray has found a way to bring down the barrier. But we need to get something outside first." Director Junho spoke up. "We could send a small probe. Something small enough that the barrier might not detect it." "The barrier detects everything," Ray said. "Even a single atom cannot pass through without triggering the sensors. The Council monitors it constantly. Then how do we disrupt it from outside?" President Wu asked. Ray brought up a display showing the solar system. "We cannot go through the barrier, but space itself has natural breaks, quantum fluctuations, tiny tears in reality that appear and disappear constantly. If we can predict where one will appear near the barrier, we can push a device through in that instant." "How long do these tears last?" Tae asked. "Microseconds. We would need perfect timing. Can it be done?" Ray was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "Yes, we have been tracking these fluctuations for years." I can predict when and where the next one will appear within 1,000,000 kilometers of the barrier. 1,000,000 kilometers is still far, Mira said through the video connection from the asteroid belt. Then we make a device that can travel 1,000,000 kilometers very fast, Tay said simply. How long until the next fluctuation? Ray checked her data.
60 days.
Maybe 70. Tay looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. Some were young, born after exile. Some were old like him, carrying the memory of the day they were cast out. All of them shared the same fire in their eyes. We have 60 days to prepare Operation Breakpoint, Tay said. On that day, we push through a disruption device. Once it is outside the barrier, we activate it. The barrier will fall. The moment it does, the fleet launches. We will not give the Council time to react. We will not give them time to prepare. We will hit them like a storm they never saw coming. What about civilian casualties? Asked a young council member. The aliens have families too, children. General Day Wan started to speak, but Tay raised his hand to stop him. The old admiral looked at the young politician with eyes that had seen too much. We will avoid civilian targets when possible, Tay said. But make no mistake, this is war. They started it when they exiled us. They thought we would die quietly in our cage. Instead, we became stronger than they can imagine. If they want peace, they should have left us alone. If they want war, we will show them what humanity learned in 50 years of isolation. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. Operation Breakpoint would proceed. For the next 60 days, activity in the solar system increased to levels never seen before. Ships that had been under construction were rushed to completion. Weapons were loaded. Soldiers were briefed. Every human alive knew what was coming. Young pilot Yan Jay sat in the cockpit of her fighter craft, running through pre-flight checks for the 100th time. She was 23 years old. She had never seen a star up close except for the sun. She had never met an alien. She had spent her entire life training for a mission that was about to begin. Scared? Asked her squadron leader through the communication system. Terrified, Yan admitted, but also excited. We are going to see the galaxy our grandparents saw, the one they were forced to leave. We are going to do more than see it, the squadron leader said. We are going to take it. On the 60th day, the fleet assembled. Thousands of ships floated in perfect formation around Earth. Soldiers stood ready. Weapons were armed. And deep in a laboratory on the moon, Dr. Ray Kim watched her computers count down the seconds until the quantum fluctuation would appear. Admiral Tay stood on the bridge of his flagship, now called Retribution. His granddaughter, Captain Nari Kang, commanded the ship's operations. Around him, officers who had trained their entire lives for this moment sat at their stations.